The hosts and guests on Everything's Messy podcast are not licensed healthcare professionals. The discussions in our episodes are not personalized medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for medical guidance. Never delay seeking professional medical advice or emergency assistance because of our podcast. We encourage consulting with a healthcare professional before making any significant health changes. By listening to our podcast, you agree to the disclaimer. Thank you for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. Hey, welcome to Everything's Messy podcast, where we celebrate the beautiful but messy life experiences that most, if not all, people go through. Get ready to embark on an exciting journey through the raw and unfiltered stories of everyday people. Here, we dive into messy realities of life, from making messy mistakes to triumphs and everything in between. Are you sensing a theme? That's right, it's messy. But this just isn't about the mess. It's about finding strength and resilience in the midst of it all. We'll explore how health, fitness, and wellness play a crucial role in navigating life's twists and very messy turns. And we'll challenge conventional systems, because sometimes the most unconventional paths lead to the greatest discoveries. Join us as we embrace the messy, beautiful, and endlessly fascinating stories. Each episode is a testament to the power of our messy journeys and the beauty that emerges from the mess. So grab your favorite beverage, coffee, sparkling water, whatever it may be, and prepare to be inspired. Are you ready? Let's get messy. Hey everyone, welcome back to an episode of Everything's Messy podcast. I am your messy host, Sarah. Joining me today, I have Jen Robb, who's a nurse practitioner, coach, author of A Warrior Mom Rising, a mom's battle plan to advocate, overcome, and thrive. She's also a wife, a mom, and running a cute little farm, as I have been told. Welcome, Jen. How are you?
I'm great, Sarah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I love here we always talk about messy stories. And of course, everybody has one, and you are not shy to have a messy story. And so I usually jump off and kind of let us, kind of go on your journey of how your messy story began.
Yeah, so our story started when my daughter was about 12, when she started dealing with mental health issues, anxiety, depression, ultimately leading to self-harm. Um, she struggled through this for about 4 years or so. Um, and now she's a thriving 17-year-old. So we've come out on the other side, but it was very, very difficult in the middle of it for sure.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. And as a mom, right, we go into sort of panic mode, and then how can we help? How can we fix it? And I feel like that was sort of the steps that you went through. And so walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, so of course, I felt like my goal was I had to keep her alive, right? Like that was my 100% goal. Um, and as moms, we often struggle with like trying to control everything all at one time, right? I mean, we're balancing home, we're balancing work, we're balancing kids, spouses, all the things. And through that process, though, we often, especially when you have a kid who's struggling, we often lose ourselves, right? Because we are so much in the trenches of trying to control every aspect of everything and not letting any of the balls hit the ground, so to say, right? And that was probably like the biggest lesson that I had to learn was that I couldn't control every aspect of what was going on with her mental health and her healing, right?
Yeah.
She was going to have to do the work, right? Which she did, ultimately through like really good counselors and therapists. She did do the work and she did the hard work, which is why she's thriving now. But letting go of the control as a mom is like the biggest probably thing that I learned, right? And most of that was that I had to surrender it over to God and say, listen, I've done all I know to do and it's not working. So what else, what do I need to do now? Right. And
Sure.
most of that was surrendering it over and letting him just take the reins.
Which as moms, that's not easy. No matter where you're at in your faith, I always say, "Here you go. Oh wait, I'm gonna take it back because I
Yep.
think I have So that's really a minute by minute process. Are you able to speak a little bit on, was there a traumatic event that started her depression and having these issues? Was it being in, around school? Was there something that triggered, or was this just something that she had to walk through to get to where she's at now?
So in the beginning, we didn't know, right? She had struggled. She just started struggling with really bad anxiety and depression, meaning that like her grades, she'd always been like a straight A student. Her grades were now dropping, C's and D's. she was isolating herself, which was
Mm.
not like her at all because she's the youngest of 3, and she's got 2 older brothers who adored her, and so she
Mm.
was usually in the middle of everything, isolating herself, hiding in her in a dark room, like, no lights, no sunlight, um, but the biggest change came for her was when she didn't wanna do cheer anymore. So she's a competitive
Mm.
cheerleader, and she loves cheer, um, and she didn't wanna do anything anymore. So, like, you start wondering, like, what is happening, right? And I often joke that, like, we were like, if you picture the family, like the all-American family with the white picket fence, that was us,
Mm.
right? Like, so it was came out of a shock, but it was later, probably about a year and a half into the journey, she finally said to us that she had been sexually assaulted by another student.
Mm.
So she had been carrying that pain and that burden and trying to deal with all of that in her little 12, 13-year-old head, right? And, she said later, like, she didn't want to tell us, A, because she had guilt and she had shame and all of these things, right, that go into any type of sexual trauma. But also she didn't want us to worry more, and she didn't want us to hurt, right? I mean, that was just that's who she is, right? Like, she's the kindest, most beautiful, gentle soul that you'll ever meet. And so, like, her way of protecting us was to just keep it from us. But at the same time, she was trying to handle the burden
Oh
herself.
my
And,
gosh.
let's remember that adolescents and teens, like, their bodies are developing, their brains are
Sure.
developing, right?
Sure.
They don't really know what to feel or how to process what they're feeling, especially when something like that happens that's really traumatic. So, I mean, of course, there was PTSD in there. There was all kinds of things, right, that she was dealing with. Um, but once we knew, like, the hard truth, then we could try to navigate and figure
Sure.
out how to help her best, right? And it took years. It took, different doctors. It took, a medication. It took different therapists and counselors. It took all of these pieces to help her overcome and work through all of the things.
Yeah. My heart breaks for not only her, but for you. And that's so brave that she was able to come to you and tell you that. And it just, I hate the how often it is the case and what happens and that they turn inside when they have nothing to be ashamed for or follow, have that guilt.
Mm.
So, not only commending you, but her and putting her on the right path. And you had mentioned surrendering to God, all of those pieces, like there's layers and layers and layers there. And that's just an incredible, incredible story. And so, if I could shift a little bit, because I talk about on this podcast a lot, pouring from an empty cup. And especially as moms, and again, talking about all the layers. A lot of times, I know, especially for me, it took having a heart attack to actually start taking care of myself and paying attention and putting aside the mom guilt and things like that. So how do you come to a space where you're like, okay, I need to not take back a little bit, but be like, okay, I need to maybe balance this a little better.
Well, I mean, it's just what you said, right? Again, like moms, we carry the weight of so many things, right? And controlling and scheduling and working and doing all the things that naturally women do. But in that, a lot of times we lose ourselves, right? Because we've given everything we have. And then there, at the end of the day, there's nothing left for us.
Nothing left. Yeah.
And, you know, it was literally like during through Chloe's struggles. Probably the deepest part of her struggle happened in 23 when she tried to quiet the noise in her head, but ended up drinking herself almost to, being fatal. She broke into a liquor cabinet, broke 2 locks on that liquor cabinet to get into it, and her brothers actually found her unresponsive. So she
Oh
was
my
face
goodness.
down, unresponsive in a pool of vomit. But it was in that moment, right, that we get her to the hospital, we do all the things, we bring her home, I have to wash her hair, get the vomit out of it, and we're going through that process of dealing with that, that I remember, days later waking up and looking in the mirror and not even know who I was anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I had gained 40 pounds. Um, I wasn't I was, working still as a nurse practitioner, and my goal was to keep her alive. She literally went everywhere with me, even to
Mm.
work. because we pulled her out of school this time and she was homeschooled. So she went everywhere with me, and that was my goal, right? And so much of our identity as women and as mothers get wrapped up in our families and our children. But when woke up, and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're 40 pounds heavier, you don't really know what your purpose or your mission is anymore. That's a really hard place to be as a woman, right? Like it's like a gut punch because you don't feel like yourself. And what God used through that was to say just what you said. You can't pour from an empty cup. Like you don't
Right.
have anything left to give, right?
Right.
And that's the thing. It's like, so in the book I talk about, like, you have to take care of yourself. Even if it's 10 or 15 minutes a day, you have to do something that refreshes your soul, right? That's just for you and refreshes your soul at the same time
Yeah.
because our families do need us. But if we're burnt out and exhausted in all of the things, then what are we teaching our children and
Right.
modeling for them, right? Like it was
Especially our
really
daughters.
correct. And it was really after that that, like, okay, I've got to change what I'm doing, right? Like I've got to change the eating habits and the not sleeping and all of these other things. But she was also learning those things too. We actually, through that, joined um a network marketing company that did beauty products, right? And she really wanted to do it. So it was for her, but she wasn't old enough to be the consultant, so I had to be it. But through that process, we both kind of relearned like new self-care techniques.
Mm,
Like I mean all of these things, right? So not only was it working through that, was it building her confidence and building her own, inward worth,
sure.
but now it was also teaching mama, okay, you are important, right? Which is
Yes,
the
you're
same
worthy.
message that
Yeah.
I was trying to get to
Yeah.
every other woman,
But
right?
it's
Like,
hard. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Especially when we're in crisis mode, right? Because I mean, maybe now you have a few more tools, but looking back when it happens and you're just in crisis mode to take care of it and do what you've got to do, not a whole lot of planning happens. You just go into action. And so I can relate to just looking in the mirror and not recognizing yourself at all. But I didn't ever have, and I don't know, maybe you can talk about this too. I never had resentment for taking care of my family or doing the things or going into crisis mode. There was never like resentfulness, but at the end of the day, remembering I would drop into bed just completely exhausted with nothing left and hope that I could fall asleep. And then all the worry would set in and I'm still really tired, but I can't shut my brain off.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I mean, I never resented either, and I still
Yeah,
don't resent, right?
right,
Like, and
right.
we all go through these periods of course, there was anger, right? Like in the beginning, but it wasn't necessarily anger at her. It was
Sure,
anger
of
at the
course.
circumstances,
Of
right?
course.
Anger at what had happened to her. And probably somewhat anger even at God going, "What are you doing?" Like,
Right.
right? Like, we're like the picture perfect ideal family, and this is not fair,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so wrestling through that, but then comes the next phase where you look at yourself and you're mad at yourself and you have guilt and you have mom shame. Did you miss something? How did you miss something? Whose fault is it? It must be my fault because I'm the mother, right? Like,
Right.
and we
Right.
take on all of these things. So never resented the situation or her, but you do go through a series almost like you're grieving, right? Because it's a dark season to be in. But what I ultimately learned through it was like not only like how to take care of myself and how to feed and refresh my own soul, but I wanted to help women do that same thing, right? Because all women at some point struggle with trying to manage the chaos and keeping it all together, right?
Sure.
And most days it's like, okay, I got up today.
Mm,
That is goal number one. I made it up, and then it's like,
right.
okay, one foot in front of the other. And every day you just have to keep on. And in those hard seasons, now you also have to let go of the feelings like it's not for anyone else because you are modeling those same behaviors to your children, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted Chloe to be a fierce, strong
Sure.
woman,
Sure.
right? but I wasn't modeling that when I was down in the depths, not taking care of my body and all of these things that God gave me.
Hmm. Yeah. And I don't think we plan for that to happen.
Mm.
We just kind of do. And then being able
It's
to
survival mode.
survive, that's right. That's exactly it. But then being able to sort of come out of it and see, okay, I can take, like you said, 10 or 15 minutes for myself, learning breathing exercises or taking that 2 minutes at the traffic light to just collect your thought. Just all of these things now that seem so little and inconsequential, they're actually can really center us again. And we can be like, okay, we're okay. But if we don't practice it, if we don't model it, if we're not showing it, it's really easy to slip into that, I don't think it's crisis mode all the time, but almost just like routine. We always put ourselves last. It's always at the bottom. That's just what we're used to. We want everyone else to be taken care of first. And then if there's anything left, we'll, come in.
But it's the same thing as like when you're on an airplane, right? Like, what do they tell you? Put your
We,
oxygen mask on
we
first,
talk
right?
about
Like,
that all the time. Yes.
if you're not breathing, you can't take care of the people
No,
next to you. And
you
so,
can't. It
you
seems
know,
like a simple concept.
it's very
Literally.
simple, right? In theory, right? Like, I mean, I have to put my mask on first, right? But it goes back to you're not being selfish if you're taking care of yourself, right? Like women get in this mentality of if I take care of me, if I take 15 minutes for myself, well, then I'm taking away from them. But but you're not. I mean, what you're really doing is showing up better for them when you are there, right?
Yes.
And we need to
100%.
let go of this selfish, like self-care is selfish mentality, and also let go of this perfectionistic society that women feel like they belong in, right? Like
Sure.
we are not perfect. We're never
Right.
going to be perfect.
Right.
So the goal should shift from being perfect to being present, right? And how is the best way to be present? When your soul is refreshed and
Right.
you're rejuvenated, right?
Right.
And that's the thing is what I want women to get. Like self-care doesn't have to be expensive either. I mean, listen, I love a good spa day, nail day, hair day, all of it, right? But that's not what self-care really is,
Right.
right?
Right.
Self-care is finding whatever it is that breathes life back into your soul. For me, it was listening to worship music in my car, right? Because that was the only place I could go hide where nobody can find you. Because we all know as mothers, we are always to
They
be
have a
found.
beacon on us and they will
Right.
track us down.
Right. And it's mom, mom, mom all the time. Right. And so for me, it was just listening to worship music, but it could be anything, taking a 10-minute walk by yourself,
Sure.
going and picking fresh flowers. Right. It doesn't have to be big and extravagant for it to rejuvenate you and to refresh you. Right. And again,
100%.
remember, when you do those things, you show up better for those that need you. You show up
Yes.
less short-tempered. You show up, you're not hot-headed. You can take a breath. You can take a breath before you have to react or respond, right? And so then it's like, "Oh, okay. This is what
Right.
it means to
Mom's
take
not
care of."
crabby today. What
Right.
happened? Yeah.
Holy
Exactly.
moly, yeah.
Right. Right. Well, and I think too, getting to the point, and I had to practice this, but getting to the point where you can quiet those mom demons down in your head because they roar with a vengeance. And like you said, the guilt, being responsible for everyone, all that stuff was very loud in my head and thinking, they deserved a better mom. Well, truth of the matter is they did, but they were only going to get that if I started taking care of me first.
But and here's one of the things that God revealed to me, and I even wrote this in the book. God did not call someone else to be their mother.
Right.
He called you. He made you their mother. He knew that you were going to be the mom that they needed in this season, and you are the perfect mom for them. So we have to let go of, well, I wish I was better. I missed it. How
Sure.
did I miss it?
Sure.
Anybody else would have missed it. And just rest in the fact that we are created in God's image and so are our children, and that God gave us those children, right? Whether we think, we are good enough or not, but he gave them to us for a time such as this,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And I think that there's freedom in that, right?
There
Like
is.
it's hard being a mom. It's just hard, especially in today's society. I feel like that's another whole topic, but like we can rest and that God called us to be their mom
Right.
and that he doesn't make mistakes. So that means that you're not a mistake either. And
Right.
you are meant to be that child's mom.
And I love that, and it was beautifully put how you said that, but I do think there's practice in keeping that at the forefront as well, because it's very easy to slip into, and then, of course, if you're like me, you're comparing yourself to the Instagram that is unrealistic and all of the perfect shots of this and that, and I'm always talking about, why can't it show just more real? I wanna see the messy sink with the dirty dishes. I wanna see because that's real. What they're showing me on Instagram is not real, but then it's hard to be like, "Oh, should I be doing that? Oh, look at the big craft they're doing for, Christmas or Thanksgiving. Like, look at how cute that is, and that means I have to go to the craft store and buy the things and sit down." Like, I don't wanna do that.
But like I talk about that because women will say to me, "Well, I mean, I took 15 minutes. I scrolled on social media and I didn't,
It's not the same.
like I like zoned out for 15 minutes. So that's not the same, right?
It's not.
Because it's just what you said, right? When we're on social media, we're not zoning out.
No.
We're into this evil comparison game of, well, she's at the beach, so her family must be perfect. And the truth is nobody's family is perfect.
Right.
Right? And, like, we forget people may not struggle the same as we do, but everybody has struggles. And getting on social media and falling into this comparison trap is
Is
not
terrible.
self-care,
Yeah. Of course
right?
not.
All
Of
it
course.
does is lead you down a bigger rabbit hole of more guilt, more shame,
So true.
more blame, and, like, then you're even more of a mess, in my opinion, like, once you've gone down that rabbit hole, and you look back up and now 15 minutes have passed and then you go back and you look at the dishes that aren't done, the floors that aren't vacuumed, the laundry that's piling up, and you're like, well, I'm a terrible mother.
Yep, I quit. I
I'm a
quit.
terrible wife. I'm done. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not what God designed us to be.
No. No. No, not absolutely not. No, and you like I said, you eloquently put how, the social media is destroying us and our kids and everybody that I mean, it's a distraction from, you know, the bigger picture, but also letting God's voice in and hearing those truths and hearing those things that we need to keep front and center, but it's really hard. It's really hard.
It's
It's a
very hard.
practice. Yeah.
Yes.
So she's thriving now. So you decided, okay, I'm assuming after she kind of came out of it, you just said, "I'm going to write this book because I want other women to hear they can do it too. This is not rocket science. You're talking about it's not even doesn't even have to be expensive. You know, how did you decide I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna write this?"
Honestly, I never set out to write a book. I mean, I started writing in the like late summer of 24. And it was really purely out of an act of obedience to God. I kept having this nudge and this nudge and this nudge about saying, you need to write a book. And I'm not an author, right? Like growing up, I don't even like to read books. You know what I mean? I'm like, I am not an author, right? And I've been through multiple years of schooling, and that's kind of like the last thing that I wanted to do, right? But purely out of obedience to God and not really knowing what it meant or what it was going to do, but it was, you need to write the story and write it from your perspective, right? Because there's another mom out there that's struggling with all of these same feelings, but doesn't know how to move through it and to move
Right.
forward. And so
Right.
that's really where the book came from. It was purely just out of obedience.
I love that. Well, and it's to me, it's sort of a unique perspective because there are a lot of self-help books out there. There are a lot of take care of yourself out there, especially for women. But this came from not only helping your daughter, but to also help yourself. So it's sort of twofold and two-pronged. And I think a lot of us with daughters, we need that encouragement and that, realism of, like you said, you're modeling, right? You're modeling the self care. You're also going through a crisis, or you did go through the crisis, and you yourself, you had to deal with the trauma of that. I mean, it's all kind of this onion that is layered. And what a testament to be able to come out on the other side and be telling us what you're telling us. So I just think it's incredible. So if you're a mom and you're at the beginning of the crisis, what's the first thing you're gonna tell them?
I would say like find a community that can help support you and lift you up and speak life into you, right? I didn't do this in the beginning. And, because again comes the stigma of mental health, right? The judgment, the shame, right? And what are people going to say if they know that my child is struggling with, X, Y, or Z? And I don't think sometimes, even as Christians, we do a really good job of having a non-judgmental attitude when somebody is talking about mental health, right?
Right.
And
I would agree with that.
I didn't talk about it. I mean, we just didn't. We kept it within, our family of 5. I mean, besides my mom, I mean, there were a few people that knew that I told, but that was only out of like I was at rock bottom, right? Not because I felt like I didn't need anybody else. Because again, I am in control and I can handle this, right? It's all about I can handle this. But at the end of
Right.
the day, when you start to unravel, you realize you're better off having a community with you that can pour life back into you. Because just as we speak life into our children and our spouses and everybody else, we need someone to speak life into us, right? And that's the first thing that I would say is find people that are strong in their faith, right? That are going to pour truth and love back into you so that on those really dark, hard days when all you want to do is go crawl back into a hole, you have somebody that's your cheerleader that can say, no, this is what we need to do. And you have to remember that you're a child of God and we have to continue to put one foot in front of the other. I mean, that's really what it needs to be in the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, I can feel that isolation though as you've gone through whatever crisis it is. And I know I struggled with I didn't want to be weak or I didn't want to look weak. Why can't I handle it? And all of these things that you put on yourself, and it just becomes this bad narrative that we tell ourselves. And so having people available that are your support group, your community, that's really, really important.
But again, I think that's a lie that we as moms and as women tell ourselves,
Oh,
right?
100%. Yeah.
If we can't do it all and handle it all by ourselves, then we're weak.
Yep.
But it's not weakness. To me, it takes more strength and more courage to step out and say, I'm not okay today to somebody than to crawl back in the bed and hide, right? Because we are not meant to be solo by ourselves,
Right.
right? Like we were meant to be in community with others, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's the way God designed it, right?
Right,
And
right. Because
you need
otherwise,
somebody,
left to our own devices, we are gonna spiral.
well, left to your own devices, you're going to listen to all those crazy, what the enemy's attacking you with. It's like you're a failure, you're weak.
Yeah.
And if you listen and you fall in the trap of those lies, then the enemy, the devil wins.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not what God wants for us. And so, really and truly, like, I didn't do that. And so, what I want other women to do is not do what I did. Right. I want women to go out and find the few people that they can trust, right? That are going to love them and support them and not judge them and not judge where they are and not judge the hard days. They're just going to speak life and truth back into them.
Which at that point, at that first step, that's what you need. And that's
Mhm.
that's really great. I love that so much. So, any last nuggets to leave our listeners with anything that you are, wanting to talk about?
Well, just remember, you're not alone, right? There are many, many, many other women and families who have struggled with mental health, right? I mean, mental health affects a huge population, not just of teens, but even young adults and even grown adults, right? And somewhere along the lines, somebody's been affected by mental health, either personally or their child or their spouse, right? So you're not alone, right? You're also not crazy for not being able to do it all, right? And that's okay, right? But finding those people that can help you, professionals and all of those things, they're all part of the puzzle, right? But the other thing that I will say to that is that you, as the mom, are your child's best advocate and you're the child's expert. You know your child better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So when you go into an appointment with a medical professional, and I can say this because I am one, right? You don't have to just do everything they say just because they're the expert, right? When you meet sometimes medical professionals, they're rushed, and sometimes you see them for 5 minutes or they see your child for 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden they come out with this diagnosis, right? That they've
Right.
tried to shove you into a box or your child into a box. But it's okay for you to say, I don't know that I agree with that plan. It's
100%.
okay for you to say, you know what, you're nice, but I don't know that you're the right fit for my child. Because again, your child is an individual person, just like you are, and they need individualized care. We don't always fit into this box that modern medicine wants to shove us in.
Right.
And I think it's important for parents to remember their voice and that they are the expert on their child. And you
100%.
have the right to say, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's great. That's that I've sort of had a wave of messy emotions through this recording. But it sounds like she's doing great. You've come out on the other end. You're helping other women. If somebody wanted to work with you, because I know that you are also a coach, where can they find you to work with you?
So the book Warrior Mom Rising is on Amazon and also on barnesandnoble.com. But then I have a website called warriormomcoach.net. And on it, there's free resources that they can access. My blogs are on there, which are, over a variety of topics that have, helpful things in them. And there's also links to like a devotional that I created and to courses that I've created as well. And then, of course, they can email me through there as well.
That's wonderful. And we'll put all of that in the show notes. This has been great, Jen. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on Everything's Messy. And I really wish you success and the best with your daughter and continued, the journey of being thriving, really.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. Whew, if you made it this far, give yourself a gold star or at least a nap. Honestly, if you showed up today and you were listening, you've already crushed it. I'm so grateful for you listening. If anything hit home, share it, tag me, write it on a sticky note. I don't care. Just don't keep all of this messy goodness to yourself. You can find me on Instagram at Everything's Messy Wellness or over at my website, everythingsmessywellness.com, where I've got resources, coaching, and probably a new rant about blood sugar or something that's just nonsense. It's all waiting for you. Check out my YouTube channel. I've got all of my podcast episodes up there. And I'm on X at Everything's Mess. Or if you just want to send me an email, Sarah at everythingsmessywellness.com. Look, until next time, hydrate, take no crap, and as always, keep it messy.